Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be showing you how to paint a classic car using gouache paint. So let's go ahead and get started. You're going to need a piece of either mixed media paper or watercolor paper, and make sure you have it landscape. Now I know the screen looks really bright, but I turned up the contrast just to make sure you guys could see what I'm drawing. So let's start off with two ovals. These are going to be the headlights on the car. And we want them to still be the same size, and you want the top and the bottom of the circle to be the same. Then we're going to draw this line that comes out, and then another line that goes out. Now this drawing is going to be a little bit tricky because we're going to do some foreshortening. We're going to be drawing this car in perspective, so it might look a little strange, might look a little wonky at first, but just trust the process. So we drew another line. We drew another line out. So right now it kind of just looks like two ovals and two lines. Then we're going to start drawing the side of the car. We're going to add this one. We have that one slightly diagonal line, and then we have that one curved line. And we're just going to use another line to connect this part together. It's kind of like the front of the car. We're leaving room for the windshield. We're going to draw that later. So we're going to continue by going down and then stopping a little bit past that headlight. This is going to be the bumper of the car. And then we're going to go ahead and draw another line. It is a-okay if your lines are not precise or they're a little wobbly, because this is basically just a guideline for when we paint later. So no worries about that. So we're going to add this circle right here underneath the headlight, and then another circle right here. Then we're going to draw this horizontal line in between the two circles. And then we're going to bring it up and around. This is going to be the grill on the car. And again, it is okay if it's not perfectly straight or perfectly symmetrical. Mine isn't. It is a-okay. Then we're going to start drawing this front tire right here. So we have this curved line. And then within that curved line, we're going to start drawing the actual tire itself. So it starts from in there, curves, and goes all the way to the bumper. And then we're just going to draw another oval for the inside of the tire. And we're going to draw this diagonal line, and then we're going to stop. We're going to draw that second tire right over there. Before we do that, we need to draw a door. So I'm going to add this curved line right here, and then we can start drawing our tire. So the top of the curve here, if you were to draw a line, if you took a ruler, it would still be the same height as the other wheel. Same thing with the bottom of the wheel here. If you were to take a ruler and place it on the bottom of the tire and bring it up to the back tire, your ruler would still be touching both. We could be more precise and do the measurements, but this is really just serving as a guideline. It does not have to be perfect, so we don't have to worry about measurements or anything. So we drew a little bit of that other tire peeking out. And then when you're done with that, we can go ahead and draw the windshield. So the lines curve inward slightly so that the top of it is a little bit shorter than the bottom of it. We're going to draw this really thin line for detail on the windshield here. And then we need to add the steering wheel, of course. Just gonna add a few accessories. Gonna add the mirror. And then our side mirror here. And that's about it. So we have our drawing, and honestly, that's probably the hardest part of this whole tutorial. So let's go ahead and move on to the painting part. Okay, so as you see here, I have my car, and we're just gonna go ahead and make the sun that's gonna be in the background. Now, you could use masking tape like I showed earlier. Basically, any circular item that you have in your house, you can use as like a stencil. Now, you can freehand the circle if you want, but if you don't want to go through the trouble of that, you can do what I'm doing right here. It's not cheating, I promise. So we have our circle for the sun. Now we need to do something for the grass. So if I were you, I would take a ruler if you have one, or basically any kind of item with like a flat edge would be really great. You can also freehand it, but again, I don't really recommend freehanding, it's just a headache. So I'm gonna hold my ruler. It's gonna be at a diagonal. Doesn't matter what angle exactly. We just want it to be at a diagonal. So we can go ahead and draw that line. And you can draw all the way across if you want. We just need to make sure that we don't use the part that's in the car. And there we go. So we have like the background prepped. For our painting, we have our car, and we can go ahead and start laying down those solid colors now. So before we start laying down some solid colors, we should take some masking tape and go ahead and tape down our edges. So the reason we do this is because if we don't, the paint will start to buckle the paper. And if the paper starts buckling and warping and all that, it's really, really hard to paint because the paper isn't flat anymore. Have you ever tried painting on a surface that wasn't flat? If you haven't, trust me, it is not fun. So if you want to prevent that from happening, just take some masking tape or painter's tape or washi tape, whatever you have laying around, and go ahead and tape it down. As you can see, I only leave a little bit of the paper like on the tape. Basically, the more tape that you put on there, the bigger your border is going to be. So for me in this paper, I wanted a very narrow, very short border. So I'm not using a lot. You can do more if you'd like. Honestly, there's no wrong answer. It all boils down to what kind of border you want on your paper. Then when you're done with that, you can go ahead and take a red gouache color. I would go for something in the middle, so not super dark, but also not super light, to serve as our mid-tone. So I would very carefully determine where you need your red to go. If you'd like, you can watch this video and see where I paint the red before you go ahead and do it. But gouache is very forgiving, so if you happen to, paint over an area that you didn't want painted, you can paint over it later. It's totally okay. It's not like when we're doing watercolor and you paint over an area and that's just kind of life now. You can't really go over it. But with gouache, you totally can. You can work in layers. It's no problem. So we're just going to go ahead and paint red. I'll go ahead and speed up this process a little bit so you can see what I'm doing. Alright, once you're done with that, and honestly, I would wait for it to dry before doing this. I would go in with like a lime green or like a yellow green, something that's not too dark, but also something that's not too light, and we're going to go ahead and color in that grass. So we're not going to color in the tires, we're going to go around them, but we're basically just filling up this large area with green. So I'm going in with a smaller brush, and I'm going along the edges of the painting. So like the diagonal line for the grass, I'm going along the bumper, along the tires. And then when I'm done with that, I can go in with a bigger brush and get the rest of the area. That way it doesn't take super long to do this. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like.
Okay, great. Once you're done with that, we can go ahead and go in and color in the sun. So for the sun, I'm using, again, a mid-tone. It's not a bright yellow, but it's also not a dark yellow. It's somewhere in the middle. And you can do the same thing we did with the grass. You can go in with a tiny brush and get along the side of the car, along the side of the windshield, and then the edges of our circle that we drew, and then take a bigger brush and do the middle, or you can do the whole thing with a little brush. It's totally up to you. Now, no, I'm not showing you this part on camera, but go ahead and take like a light gray, a medium gray, and then black to color in the grille, the headlights, the windshield, the tires, etc. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and take a darker red, and we're gonna start adding the shadows to our car. Honestly, this is where it starts getting fun. This is where our car starts looking more three-dimensional, but we're taking our dark red and we're adding shadows to the top of the headlights, the bottom of the headlights, and I'm using the tiniest brush that I own for this. So if you have a small brush, I would highly recommend using it so that we can start getting those details. We filled in the really big areas first, and now we can get down to the nitty-gritty of it all. So here we go. I'm adding a shadow here in between these two parts, and then I'm adding a shadow above the bumper right here. So I'm going to narrate the parts that I'm adding shadows to, and you can follow along and add them on your painting. So the way that I'm doing this is I have a reference image, and I'm not going to make you guys do this because it is a skill and it does take time and a lot of effort. It's a lot easier to just copy what I'm doing right here. I'm simplifying it for you. But I'm adding another shadow right next to that headlight and then below here next to the wheel. But the way that I'm able to do this is I take my reference image and I hold it a little bit far away and then squint. And then the reason why I squint is so that I can see exactly where the dark areas are and my highlights. I can see my shadows and my highlights quite easily that way. It's almost like you're forcing yourself to, instead of seeing it as a car, see it as more of like an abstract object, just looking for dark areas and light areas. So we've added another shadow above the wheels, kind of like this strip that's parallel to the one we did before. Kind of imagine like we're drawing two horizontal lines, but that's where we see shadows on the car. Then we're going to go ahead and add another shadow up here. This is above the second door, above the handle, and then we're going to add some more small lines. So I added a curved line by the headlight. I'm adding this shape over here in between the headlight and the wheel, the front wheel. And I'm going to bring it down a bit. This process becomes a lot more intuitive the more that you draw from life or the more that you draw from a reference image. But I'm just trying to break it down into shapes for you guys. So we have this rectangle up here, I'm going to elongate, goes above the headlight. Then we have this other line. And we're going to go ahead and color in that area right there. Gonna add some more shadows, this time to the other door. Is it starting to look 3D yet? Might need to add some more detail until we get to that point, but add some more shadows. So you can see we have a really good mix of straight lines, horizontal lines, curved lines, rectangles, and Honestly, it's these shapes that make it look more like a 3D figure instead of a flat car, because we're not here to make a flat car, we're here to make a semi-realistic painting. You might be wondering, Tappy Zap, why didn't you make this tutorial of a car that's like perfectly from the side view? Because let's be real, that would have been a way easier tutorial to make. That would have been so much easier for you guys to draw. You know what? That's boring. Really, that's what it boils down to. It's boring. When you're painting something or you're drawing something, do you really want to make a subject that is just boring to look at? Is that what you want in your life? Because I could tell you, that's not what I want. Life is already boring enough. Why do we need to make it more boring? Art's supposed to make life more enjoyable. So, yes, this tutorial is a lot more difficult in perspective than if we had done it just at a side view. But doesn't it look really cool? And honestly, once we start adding all the details, I think you'll understand where I'm coming from. So, anyways, moving on from that tangent, we're going to go ahead and add highlights. So, as you can see, this is not perfect white. In art, we don't use a lot of perfect white and perfect black because it flattens our image, it makes it look like a cartoon, stylized, etc., etc. That's not what we're trying to accomplish today. So I blended in a little bit of red with this white to make like this pinkish white color. So honestly, our highlights are complementing our shadows. A lot of my highlights are going above or next to shadows, as you can see. We have some on the side of the car where the doors are. We have some next to the headlights. We have some underneath the headlights. Highlighting the rim. Again, there really isn't a good strategy. There's no formula for this. It's really just observing your reference image, observing real life, and putting down what you see. Now, where the highlights are a little bit stronger, I am using pure white, as you can see here. Again, though, that's something we want to do really sparingly, because sometimes it could just make our painting look really weird, trust me. But on small details like here, perfect. Where there was a really, really bright highlight, where it honestly looks like the reflection off the car because the car is so shiny. Yeah, we want to add a brighter highlight, of course. But if we made the whole thing in this bright white highlight, well, number one, it would be blinding. You'd be looking at it like, oh my god, my eyes. But also, it just wouldn't look real. It would look like a cartoon. Hey, I know it sounds like I'm bashing cartoons, guys. I'm not. I love making cartoony stylized art on this channel. You know me. You know me. That is my jam. But also, I want to be able to teach you guys the fundamentals of painting, the fundamentals of drawing. It doesn't have to only be cartoons. Honestly, once you understand how to draw things in real life, if you want to move on to stylized work, it becomes so much easier. There are a lot of rants going on in this tutorial. I apologize, but I have some opinions. So we're going to go ahead and add some highlights to the headlights. Now, the headlights are bright, so of course we're going to go in with bright white. Before the headlights had these highlights, you really couldn't tell that they were headlights, could you? But once we add those highlights and, of course, we add some shadows as well. It'll come to life, I promise you. And if your highlights seem a little bit too harsh, you can always wet your brush and go over it, and it'll make like this really nice transition from the bright white to the gray. I know you're probably surprised about this, but I'm going over it with black, and I am lining the headlights. You might be thinking to yourself, Tabby Zap, why are you doing that? Why? I thought we were painting something realistic. If you add line art, doesn't that defeat the purpose of making something realistic in 3D? Now, you have a really good argument there if that's what you're thinking. But we're not lining the entire thing in like this thick black line. I promise you. Small parts of it. See? And it's not even solid black. It's like a dark gray, a very soft dark gray. And once we line that, as you can see, I drew like a tiny circle in the middle, and then we have the line of the bigger circle. I'm adding those highlights because it's supposed to be shiny, reflective metal. And if we really want to show that, we need to add our shadows and our highlights, but especially our highlights. Imagine like all the accessories on this car are made of chrome. It is a shiny car. We need to be able to show that in our art, just how shiny and reflective it is. So we're going to do the same thing on this side. It's a little bit in perspective. We can't perfectly see it, but we have the same concept, the same principle going on. We're lining it. And then this part might be a little tricky. If you need to stabilize your hand, make sure you're painting with your whole arm, not just your wrist. And make sure that your hand is planted perfectly on a flat surface to stabilize your arm. Because it can be really hard to paint a straight line. It might come out wonky. And if your line does turn out wonky, just know that you can always wait for it to dry and then paint on over it. It is a-okay if you have to do 5 tries to get that line to look right. Gouache is very forgiving and wonderful. So when you're done with that, you can go ahead and add highlights. So I added bright white because, like we said, we want to imagine that this is like covered in chrome accessories. And we want that part to be extremely shiny and reflective. So I added this white line, and I'm taking my brush and I softened it. Okay, now we can move on to the wheels, which I'm excited about. We're gonna go in with our highlights first. So we're gonna go across the side of the inner tire, and then we're gonna bring it all the way around. Now remember that this is in perspective, so we can't see the whole tire head on. So we're only doing part of the spokes, as you can see. So we can only see 3 of them in perspective. And then we're gonna add another line right here. Then really all we need to do there is add some shadows. So let's move on to this one. So as you can see, when it's in perspective and it's farther away, it's gonna look smaller. So even though technically these tires are the same size, our back tire, our rear tire, looks significantly smaller than the front tire. So it's gonna be a little bit trickier to add the details, but also we don't really need to know the details. We can intentionally leave details out back there because it's not the focal point. We're not really looking there. The front tire is significantly more interesting than the back tire. So If you're like, man, I cannot get these details right on the back tire, don't you worry about it. Just pretend it barely exists. Pretend you're looking in your peripheral vision, and that's about how important it is. It just needs to make sense. No one's going to be inspecting it like, that tire isn't perfect. But if they are going to inspect a tire, it's going to be this front tire. So I would make sure that one looks the best out of the three. So we're going to go ahead and go in with black. You have my full permission to go in with solid black for this shadow. I know I said that we don't want to use bright white and perfect black because of its ability to make a painting look cartoony. But there are some instances where we need that really harsh shadow. And this is one of them. The wheels, we need that. So part of the tire, and then this part of the inner tire. And see how that really makes the spokes pop? Yeah. But again, sparingly. We're not using it in a lot of places. As you can see, our door hinges or whatever, they kind of blend in with the highlight, right? So if you would like to, you could go ahead and add a little bit of definition with black paint. Completely up to you. And I'm going to add these vertical lines because they have texture. And then imagine that all these details here, all these accessories, all these parts of the car on the top near the windshield, they're made of chrome. So they need to have noticeable shadows and really strong highlights. So I'm going to add these shadows. It's a little bit trickier on the windshield just because it's so thin, but don't worry. Just do the best you can. I think the biggest trap you can fall in when you're making a painting like this is expecting it to be perfect. Because if you get in that mentality, it's over. It's over. Because it's not gonna look perfect. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. Does my painting look exactly like the reference? No, it doesn't. But that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. So we're gonna add some highlights as well. And I know it's really, really hard to get these parts because it's such a thin area. But I would go in with a bright white so that it shows up on the gray. Do it for parts of the windshield, for the mirrors. And if you want to touch up the gray parts that are on the front of the car, you can as well. Now we're pretty much done with the highlights and the shadows on the car itself. So we're going to move on to the grille. I think the grille is kind of tricky just because you need to keep a really steady hand for this. So we're going to add a white line, a really thin white line to the bottom. It's okay if you have to go over it with a few different strokes. It doesn't have to be one solid line. And it's also okay if it's not perfectly straight. My line's not perfectly straight. Just do the best you can, and that's what matters. Then we're going to take this line upwards. We're going to take it upwards. And then curve. And then bring it around to another straight line. Totally okay if you have to refill your brush. It is okay. And we'll do this side. Just like that. And then we're just going to connect it. So it's basically like we're putting a white outline around the grille of the car. We just want it to go all the way around. Now, honestly, I think that's the hardest part of this. This part should be easier because these lines are so short. But we're going to draw some vertical lines. And then when we're done drawing the vertical lines, we're going to draw some horizontal lines. We want these lines to be as straight as we can make them. But also just remember that you're human. So if they don't end up being perfectly straight, That's also okay. If you look at my lines, they are not perfectly straight. Some of them are kind of slanted actually, which was not intentional. But you know what? It's okay. It is A-okay. And there isn't a set number of lines you need to make. It's just basically as many fit on your grill until you reach the end there. Now the horizontal lines are definitely going to be harder than the vertical lines, but again, you got this. You've made it to this point. There's no giving up. There's no turning back. So straight line, or at least try to make it straight. Again, my line is not perfectly straight. See? It's got a little bit of waviness, a little bit of quirkiness to it. And again, that's okay. I just don't want anybody to feel pressured following one of my tutorials because there's no expectation of perfection here. Just that you have fun and learn something new. And hopefully me showing you that, like, I'm not perfect makes you realize, like, it really doesn't matter. And that's all there is to the grill. And yeah, we're done with our car. Everything else is going to be so easy now. So we're going to go in with a darker green, and we're going to start making the shadows underneath the car and then add detail to the grass here. This was honestly my favorite part, just because, again, it's really easy. But we're just going to add shadows underneath the car. I'm going in with a flat brush, so a brush that's like flat on the top. And that helps me get control over where I'm painting, since we have a lot of edges here. And don't worry if it's not perfect. Don't worry if it doesn't look exactly like this, because we're going to end up blending it into that light green color. So the shadows aren't even going to look like this in a second. Don't worry. So we have that part done. Then we're going to wash off our brush and then make sure there's a little bit of water still on it. And we're going to blend that dark green into our light green. You guys see that? I love blending. It's so fun. So we're going to blend this dark green into the light green on the side and on the front of the car. Doesn't that just look better? I feel like having it unblended, it just looks too harsh. And if you truly, truly, truly want to blend the two together, you can also go back in with your light green. And then to make sure our shadows are extra dark, we can go back in with the dark green on the top. And you can go back and forth as many times as you want. But again, a lot of painting is just going with your gut. Do I like how this looks, or do I want to refine it? And whatever your answer is to that question is what you should do. Personally, I wanted to go in a few different times to really make sure those shadows look nice. But everybody has their own preferences when it comes to this. So let's go ahead and move on to the grass. Now, we're not making super realistic grass or anything. Honestly, I think making grass that doesn't look super realistic kind of helps not take away from the car itself, if you get what I mean. So we're going to go in with a bunch of different kinds of greens. We're going to use that same green we used for the shadows earlier to add these blades of grass. And we're basically just taking that tiny brush we used to do all our little details for the grass. And these are like slightly curved lines, really tiny little lines. It's the same way you would paint like fur on an animal. This is the way we would do grass. One quick thing though, remember that our painting is in perspective, right? The grass is also going to be in perspective. So the further away the grass is from us, the smaller the blades of grass will be. But then the closer they get to us, the bigger the blades of grass are going to be. So as you can see, the ones that are far away from us, they're teeny tiny. But when we start adding more grass in the front, it's going to start, see, it looks bigger because they are closer to us. So I'll go ahead and stop talking. I'll let you watch and see what I'm doing, but we're going to fill the whole area with this green, and then we're going to go in with some other greens as well. Then I would go in with a really, really watered down blue, and we're gonna tint our windshield like this gray blue. I wouldn't use straight blue out of the tube or out of the package, just because it's too bright and not very realistic looking. But if you add a little bit of gray, it's more of a kind of blue you would find in nature. So we're just gonna do that around the whole windshield, just to make it look a little more real. If we left it white, it would look a little weird. Then there's only one more thing we gotta do, guys. We need to shade the sun. So I'm going in with this yellowy orange, again with a flat brush, and I'm going around the car for a nice subtle shadow. And we're gonna do the same thing we did with the grass. So we're gonna paint the whole area, then we'll go back in either with a wet brush or with yellow on our brush, and we will blend it in. So I'm pulling the paint upwards, and then I'm going in with that yellow. And it's starting to blend in! So exciting! I love blending, can you tell? So we'll blend those two colors in real quick. And then we're going to go in with a darker orange, just to really make sure it's nice and shaded. And we're going to repeat the same process. And then we're done. Awesome, guys. Thanks so much for following along. Let me know what you thought of this tutorial and what should I make one on next. Anyways, thanks for watching. Bye.